we did a music video which was super successful. It's got like something like it's close to 100,000 plays
Yeah, it's like
now.
92K. It's like, what the
Yeah,
heck? All
yeah,
the other ones are
yeah,
like in the 100 range. Like, how did y'all manage
yeah.
that?
Just smart advertising. And the reality is being an indie band, if you don't have that major label support, is just familiarizing yourself with the way that social media corporations just kind of want to suck you dry for money. So, it's like they're still sucking you dry for money. It's just about how they do it and how you do it. So it's actually mutually beneficial instead of being a sucker who they're basically conning you for, right? So,
This is a
um,
mutually beneficial suck then.
yes, it's a mutual suck as they call it these days. Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to episode 72 of the Cast That Ends Creation. I'm your host, Chris Deering. This is the show where I interview bands and public figures from the mathcore adjacent communities. If you beautiful people in chat have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them. I'll try to read them aloud. If you like this up for $5, you get access to some exclusive emails as well as access to the interviews before they hit YouTube and streaming platforms. You can also sub for free by attaching an Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. It's like taking $5 from Jeff Bezos' pocket and putting it into mine. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this in your car and have no idea what I'm talking about, the show is first recorded live on Twitch. Join us every Sunday and Wednesday at twitch.tv/thecastThatEndsCreation for the live cast. With that out of the way, let me introduce our guest today, who dropped their new album, The Purity of Grief, back in May. Welcome in, Kurtis. I already lost your last name. Kurtis Jeffery of No Light Escapes. How's it going,
What's
man?
up? It's going well, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Can't really complain. Can't complain.
Good, good.
So it looks like you guys were called Technical Damage, and you switched your name to No Light Escapes. Well, what happened there?
Well, the name Technical Damage, the band was originally formed by Peter back in Bangladesh, and so he, that was back in 2008. It was a really long
Wait,
time
in
ago.
Bangladesh, like the country?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Technical Damage originated in Bangladesh, so there's some trivia. And so what happened was when we kind of Peter and Michael brought the band from Bangladesh over to here, and then over time, Chris joined the band, and they were cycling through members, and then eventually Harrison came on, and then I came on, and then we were all sitting down together at a table one day, and we're like, okay, well, what's the name that we should proceed forward with this current lineup? And we were kind of keen on holding on to the Technical Damage name because we believed that it still, held a lot of weight when it came to respecting the past and respecting the tradition from where the band came from.
Mm-hmm.
But what ended up happening is as time went on, we were kind of like, oh, the name, it's not quite like, it's not quite the way we envisioned it, quite the way we wanted it. And then eventually, because of the COVID-19, it kind of gave us a really good opportunity to rebrand. Like, if everyone's just fucking stuck in their basement doing nothing, then it's like now is a good time to basically to make that giant change. It was a pain in the ass too. No Light Escapes. Yeah, the name is actually comes from two things. The first is that it's a Converge
I was
tune.
gonna say Converge song,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And our band definitely borrows elements from Converge. And then the other thing was we were arguing back and forth about like sci-fi uh, kind of names, and I was like, oh, I'm not really into that. And then we were sort of arguing back and forth until we eventually settled on No Light Escapes, which was sick because again, it acknowledges the Converge background, and at the same time, it also refers to like what a black hole is essentially, right? So
Oh, okay. Okay, I
yeah,
see
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh, I feel like it matches your music way better than Technical Death. Like when I hear Technical Death, I think Technical Death Metal, and like
Yeah,
that's not exactly the same thing.
Technical Damage was a name that people were like, oh, I'm expecting to see like a 1,200 notes played within 30 seconds and the song ends or something like that. And then yeah, no, it was yeah, we felt that No Light Escapes was a way better fit, and it seems like that's been the general response from everybody that listened to Technical Damage before and continue to listen to us now.
Okay. So they I guess under Technical Damage they released an EP and then an actual album in 2018. So was that band formed the way it is now in like 2019 then, or when did y'all get the final lineup together?
Well, we like the final lineup was formed in like 2016, I would say, like the lineup that we have right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and we dropped we dropped our very, very first EP, Damaged Nation. Another name that I kind of wish we hadn't used, but we used it anyway. Again, we've gone through a lot of growth as a band over the past few years, but
Why is that
um,
a bad name? I don't understand.
it was just like, so I don't know. Like if you listen to the record, the guys, it's one of those situations when you're in a band and there's five dudes in a room, and then a whole bunch of people are like, oh yeah, I fucking like that name a lot, and then there was me kind of brooding in the corner, like, oh, you know what, it's democracy, whatever, go ahead. So let's just say it's not a reflection of what the guys think. It's just me being a prick. But um,
Okay.
yeah, it was those first four songs off the that was kind of what we led with to originally get our first set of songs going, and then we dropped the Introspect in 2018.
Okay, so the full lineup was still technical damage. What was it? Technical damage, right? And
Yeah,
then so y'all changed the name like 4 years later. Like seems
yeah,
like y'all
yeah,
were sticking with it for a long time, and then decided to
yeah,
flip it. Okay.
yeah. 5 years later, after we'd kind of done the technical damage thing, and we eventually just said, like, you know what, we're dropping a new album. And man, the new album, in comparison to the previous record, if you listen to those two albums, you'll hear exactly what I mean when I say that we sound like two different bands. So yeah,
Alrighty. So what is different this time around then compared to the last album?
just better songwriting, more refined tunes. We spent a lot more time on like the pre-production process, so a lot of kind of hammering out things that worked, didn't work. We didn't rush the production of this record either. Like we really took our time. Like we wrote 15 tunes, we nailed them down to 8, and then we nailed them down even further. We did work with Tim Creviston, who he wrapped up. He did guitar engineering and just kind of production stuff with the new Misery Signals record. He's done stuff with Spirit Box. Um, and yeah, so he really pushed us, and he especially pushed me as the vocalist to really like do some cool takes, use different technique, go for different styles, and just overall, in comparison to previous experiences when we were making music, we just put a lot more heart and a lot more of our minds into making it a superior product.
So was he involved in like helping y'all write and stuff too, or?
Well, there was times where I'd be like, "Yo, I got this line," and then he'd be like, that was fucking corny, dude. You shouldn't say that line. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna turn around here with my notepad and write a bunch of other shit down. And then I'd go back into the booth and he'd be like, okay, that was good, but we could use another take. So it was like he was just very good at telling me what like telling us what we needed to hear to make the
Right.
best album possible. So it's like even though like composition and all that stuff was ours, he there's very much his fingerprints on the record. And honestly, like he engineered, mixed, mastered, produced. Like he was our guy for the whole record, and it was probably one of the best decisions we've ever made as a band.
He was giving you a lot of tough love.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And honestly, I'd rather have tough love and a wicked product than just like, okay, dude, give me the paycheck and then we'll like casually do it, and then all of a sudden it's like you release it and then you're pitching it to playlists and everyone sounds like this fucking sounds like it was recorded in a toilet bowl, dude. Like what are you thinking, right? Yeah. So it was no, it was worth it. 100% worth it.
Well, this definitely does not sound like it was recorded in a toilet bowl. Let me just
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually like really, really good progressive metalcore. With lots of different textures. You got some clean sections, some electronics, a couple of gent sections, melodic death sections, and honestly, my favorite part of the whole album is High Tide, where you do the little surf section. That's fucking
Yeah.
amazing. That's so good.
Yeah.
Other
Yeah.
bands should be doing that, like breaking up like different genres and stuff right in the middle. I love that. That used to be a huge thing back in the MySpace era, and it's cool
Yeah.
to see bands starting to do that, bring that stuff back. But
Yeah.
you have all these influences going into it. What are the big influences going into the band?
Okay, so I would say that like you kind of have again because it's like you said, there's lots of textures. So you kind of we're borrowing from bands like After the Burial, Born of Osiris, Misery. I'd say Misery Signals. Like if you look at it from like a top-down point of view, I'd say Sigs is probably like our biggest influence. So you kind of have that modern metal sound. and then you have the hardcore stuff. So that's where we really borrow from like Converge. I remember when we were writing some of the tunes, I was really into Error Zone. I was listening a lot to Vane.
Okay.
And so it's like if you listen to In Absentia, like I think it's track number 5 or whatever on the record, you listen to that, and if you're like, okay, so he was listening to Error Zone when he wrote this, you'll be like, fucking, I can hear that for sure. And then End was another one that I was listening to a lot of. I would say, oh well, yeah. So Miss Sigs is the big one, and then Dillinger Escape Plan is another big one. So High Tide, like that, like that's Dillinger straight up to the max, man. So yeah,
Hell yeah, man.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just want to say hey to Ben in the chat. Nice to see you, man. So you were saying Misery Signals was a big influence. I guess that's how you got into contact with their producer.
yeah. Well, yeah, that was kind of like
Just
actually
went
the way
down
that
the
we got
rabbit
it.
hole trying to chase him
Yeah.
down.
Well, the way that I really was like, because the guy that we did our record with before, the introspect with, awesome guy, really great friend. We walked away from the process kind of wanting a little bit more from what we had, and so what I ended up doing is I went around the Vancouver music scene, and I actually like went and talked and chatted with like probably 7 or 8 different producers, like actual guys, and was basically trying to find dudes that like a dude that was going to fit the vision, right? And I wanted to find a guy that I knew was going to want to make it his just as much as we wanted to make it ours, as
Mm.
if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
him to
100%.
hold it close to his chest. And it was funny because like I was looking at like resumes and stuff of these people and shit they had done in the past, and I was like, okay, I'm like, Misery Signals, like sign me up, tick a box, Spirit Box, who's like, they're just going huge, they're getting huge right now.
Oh
And I
yeah,
was
it's
like,
ridiculous how big they are. It's
oh,
nuts.
they're opening for Metallica.
Yeah, what the fuck
Like
is this?
that is insane. Like, and it's funny because like Spirit Box is like I definitely can appreciate their music. Like I don't listen to them like a lot. But man, they are just like they're opening for like direct support for Limp Bizkit and shit now. They've gone
Right.
like 2 years ago, they were kind of just known as like the band that was the sequel sort of to I Wrestled the Bear Once, and now they're like fucking huge and good for them. Like
Right.
so great. Like it's so cool to see Courtney and Mike doing their thing and to see all the success they're getting. And they're a band that's really really changing the game when it comes to how bands are rolling out releases now. But yeah, anyway, yeah, that's how we found Tim. So
Alrighty.
yeah.
Um. So what's the writing process like? Is somebody primarily directing it, or are you guys just bringing in different things, seeing what sticks to the wall?
Mm. So the way that we do it usually is like Harrison and I are big Guitar Pro guys, which is hilarious because some dudes are like, "What? You guys still use Guitar Pro, or you
Oh,
guys use
Guitar
Guitar
Pro's
Pro?"
great. Yeah.
I just sit down in front of my computer with a fucking guitar and just write out riffs. And as you know, like you could do that, but we found that it's sort of a really accessible way for us to share music was for him to be sitting at his computer, me to be sitting at my computer, cranking out a whole bunch of riffs on Guitar Pro, bouncing ideas back and forth, and final product. And so Guitar Pro was kind of our main way of doing it. But then, every now and again, if when Harrison and I were doing pre-production and he was literally like I would be on the computer, using Reaper or whatever, and he'd be plugged in, and I'd be like, oh, we wrote that section in Guitar Pro. I didn't like it. I think we could do something better. And then he'll just bullshit something on the spot, and then we'll be like, yeah, that sounds cool, or whatever. And then we'll edit the Guitar Pro track later. So when it comes to songwriting, Guitar Pro is sort of the Guitar Pro and collaboration. And yeah, like it was a band wide effort in terms of writing.
Mm.
But it was very much like yeah, like there's sort of there was main architects of the songs in each of them. Um, yeah, and no, it stands out. It's really cool. It's really cool to have an eclectic mix of artists just doing something. You know what I mean?
Do you write any of the actual music, or are you just a lyrics person?
I write the music. So yeah, I wrote in absentia, but again, it's funny because like I'll write a whole bunch of it out, and then Harrison will come in and tweak some things because he's actually the guitar players, and I'll write some stuff that's like impossible to play, and be like, dude, I can't play this. Like I need like 7 fingers and like a third arm, And I'd be like, well, I tried, just do whatever you feel, you know what I mean? So In Absentia was a big one. High Tide, there was like the sort of the not the surf part, but the sort of that part I was talking to you about that sounds very Dillingery that follows it was mine as well. And yeah, like I said, everybody's kind of got their fingerprints on everything, right? So it's awesome.
Okay, okay. I
Yeah.
haven't like seen videos of y'all playing live and stuff. You just do vocals though, right?
Yeah, just vocals.
Okay, okay, but you know how to play guitar and all that stuff. You bring that to the table as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a previous life, I was a bass guitarist for a grunge for a grunge rock band, and
Ooh.
yeah, yeah. So and just picking up a guitar periodically and playing it, and like I can't shred, right? I just like play some caveman riffs, and it's like that's going to sound like a good section there. Harrison and Peter are the guys that are the real tech heads, and they're the ones with the visions for that kind of stuff. I just like to write stupid slam riffs, so yeah.
Who doesn't like to write stupid
Yeah,
slam riffs, right? Like, come
exactly.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so there's no lyrics on the internet aside from that one lyric video you guys did. So why aren't the lyrics up on Bandcamp or something? I literally could not find
Yeah.
them.
That is a really good question, and it's probably something that I should get on because I have no problem sharing like the lyrics. And I'm surprised that they didn't go up there because Bandcamp was a bit weird. They were like when I was trying to upload, like when we were trying to upload our music, it was uploading the whole album under like singles instead of the new record.
Hmm.
Maybe that's just me making excuses for us just being shitheads. But what else? Yeah, no. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll make sure to come around to that.
Well,
Yeah.
so what are the lyrics about then?
Um, I mean, the lyrics like touch on a whole bunch of stuff, like, but it sort of all follows a consistent theme. I remember going into the record, like, if you listen to the album prior to, it was very, there was no consistency. There was like no cohesion in the sense of, um, like what is the music about, right? Because there was like some, like in the previous record, there was like some reference to poverty and lack of equity in the world, and then all of a sudden it's talking about like some kind of Babylonian legend, or just what I mean.
Okay.
Like it was just so unhinged. Like there wasn't anything to really hang it on. And I
Hmm.
find that as a writer or as a lyricist, you really, um, I mean, you don't want to constrict yourself, but at the same time, you want to be able to have a certain thread that you're following
Right,
along
like the
with,
main
and
idea.
exactly, the main idea. And so the main idea, like I remember we were all kind of sitting down, and I was kind of writing the lyrics, and then I was like, you know what? I want this album to be about the cycle of grief, right? The five stages of grief. And I wanted to kind of talk about, what that feels like, the sadness that comes from that, and then the rage and the bargaining, and then just eventually coming to acceptance. And so every, like, the album doesn't necessarily follow like some direct cycle, like almost like, if you were looking at a graph or something. But there's very much the lyrics definitely touch upon feelings of, again, just like the storm of emotions whenever we lose something, or something like when something causes us pain or misery, and then how we basically take that all in, and we unleash a fury over it, or we just come to learn to accept it and to move on with it, right? So yeah, I mean, every tune's different, but every tune has that running theme of just just unleashing feelings of grief. And I feel like we don't talk enough about that as in society. So
So did you write lyrics for all 15 of those songs that you were talking about, or did you just start putting them down whenever y'all narrowed it down?
there was ideas for all 15 songs,
Hmm.
but and there was kind of general outlines, right? Like there was like this one tune that we wrote that was very um architectsy, that was sort of about the um, sexual abuse cases related to the Catholic Church, and that sort of stuff. And so I was always like, okay, so when I eventually go in to write a full song of lyrics, then that's what this is going to be about, right? And then but again, wasn't really until we nailed those 15 down to the very last eight that I was like, okay, now we're digging deep and finding what we really want to write about,
That
right?
makes sense because I was wondering how you're able to do 15 songs about the same like themes. That's a lot of songs about
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So let's see here. I was just gonna. The recording process, we already talked about that. Okay, so you got on Cascade, you have someone named Alex Badger on there.
Yeah.
I've never seen like her projects or whatever. Where's she from?
She is yeah, she's a local artist from um she is from basically a local area, Squamish, that's near her near Vancouver. She's a friend of Tim. She has her own project. The name is just completely escaping me right now, which is sort of Portraits. Portraits is the name of the group that she plays in, and they're awesome. Love their music, and no, it was nice because I was like, oh, I really want a female voice. Like, I really want a female vocal to contrast like what I'm doing, right?
Mm,
Because the whole time I'm just like throughout the entire record, right? Like, there's
yeah.
no, with the exception of maybe the last song, like there's like a teeny tiny tad bit of like pitched, clean, screamed vocals, but I wanted to make sure that like we had some kind of dynamic and like I'm so grateful for Alex. Like the work that she did, just it added so much, and nothing but praise for her performance.
Yeah, she sounded great.
Yeah, she killed it. It was one of those things where Tim's like, oh yeah, because I wasn't there when she tracked the tune. Because Tim was like, okay, so a friend of mine, she's gonna like she'll come in and she'll do it, and I was like, that is sick, that's awesome. And then he's like, so here's what she did, and I was like, this is unreal. Like I I have no feedback, like it's perfect, right? So it was awesome. It was really cool.
That's tight.
Yeah, man.
So the artwork was done by Abysmal Arts. So we got it up on the screen now. Tell us a little bit about this. How this come to be?
So we so again there was an artist who will not be named, who was what our original choice that we wanted to do artwork with, and it was one of those things where we kind of pitched the idea to them, being like, hey, like, we really want to do this with you because we love the work that you've done for a lot of prolific bands, like bands and major label bands, and we'd really like you to do that with us. And they kind of gave us this wishy-washy answer, and then we kind of tried to follow up and nothing, and I just said, like, fuck it. Like, sometimes people just, yeah, it bothers me when people kind of get like this ego mindset, especially when you're trying to be polite about it. But
Right.
anyway, um luckily, yeah, so the person who's behind Abysmal Arts is Taylor Beadle, and she is awesome. She's not only a great artist, but she's also a great person. She's also a tattoo artist, who's doing really great work. She's getting her career off the ground, and it's super exciting to see. But what happened was, again, like, it's like I told you, in the way that the people who we brought on board with the project, we really wanted to make it theirs. So the thing is, it's like, when it came to our artwork, we wanted Taylor to be the artwork. So we gave her the vision, and I told her, I'm like, this is what I see, and this is kind of what I want the record to look like, with the hand kind of coming out like that, and like pressed up against glass almost, to feel like you're up against a wall, to feel that, like, that feeling of sadness and what it's like to be stuck inside of your own head, essentially. And Taylor was like, cool, and then she just brought it to life. Again, same thing, where we went through a revision feedback sort of process, and she was just so incredible the whole way through. And then she did all of our single artwork, which turned out great. Yeah, and like I said, something that was really missing from the last record was consistency and cohesion. And so that's why in this record, right, we were like, you are doing all of the artwork, like start to finish, like that's it. And then with Tim, it was like, you are literally doing everything. And then he killed it, right? And so everyone's walking away from this now being like, yeah, we were all hands on deck with this project. Like, we ran a super, super tight ship. And I feel like it pays off.
Yeah. Y'all ended up doing like what was it? 6 different arts for singles, something like that.
We did we did like there's eight kind of pieces of art that we sort of used. Taylor did three of them for three of them for us. And then there was sort of like the other ones, we just sort of took like stock photos or things that we wanted to manipulate and sort of make it sort of just to give each song their own identity. And especially on Spotify, they got those super cool visualizers, right? So we're like, okay,
Right.
well, let's just not make it this like the background of the album the entire time. Let's try to like spice it up. So if someone's like looking at their phone, they're like, oh shit, that's kind of interesting. So yeah, you
And
know,
you did like 6 streaming videos, and y'all did a lot of like what would you call it? I guess yeah, art pieces for this album. Like
yeah,
a lot of bands don't go super far into that direction. They just like drop a single with like the album cover, and like that's the end of it.
yeah. Yeah, we did a lyric video. We did a music video, which was super successful. It's got like something like it's close to 100,000 plays
Yeah, it's like
now on
92K. It's like what the
Yeah,
heck? All
yeah,
the other ones are
yeah,
like in the 100 range. Like how did y'all manage
yeah.
that?
Just smart advertising. And the reality is being an indie band, if you don't have that major label support, is just familiarizing yourself with the way that social media corporations just kind of want to suck you dry for money. So, it's like they're still sucking you dry for money. It's just about how they do it and how you do it. So it's actually mutually beneficial instead of being a sucker who they're basically conning you for, right? So,
This is a
um,
mutually beneficial suck then.
yes, yeah, it's a mutual suck as they call it these days. Yeah, exactly.
So got random question that we ask everybody here. How do you dress your hot dogs?
How do I dress my hot dogs? Okay, good question. I like spicy ketchup, like like the shitty Heinz ones that's kind of got the added spiciness. So I do that, and then I
Okay.
got spicy Dijon mustard, and then Tabasco sauce. Like when I eat that,
God
like if
damn, dude, that's like gonna blow
yeah,
your taste buds off.
I know. Well, it's like if I'm gonna eat something like that, I want to remember it. I want it to. I want every hot dog to. I want it to take a day off my life, each single one, right? So yeah,
You'll remember it in the morning. Don't you worry about
yeah, exactly.
that.
Because then I drink a cup of coffee, and then I'm like, okay, guys, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then they don't see me for like 3 hours, and yeah, yeah.
So you have a Facebook post thanking Creative BC for helping you release the album. What is that exactly?
So Creative BC, they're like a organization that is in British Columbia that is all about sort of supporting. Like they have programs that are meant to support local music venues, recording studios, and like 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 basically the arts in British Columbia. Like they're really trying to elevate the entertainment industry, right? So Creative BC, they're sort of what happens with them is they offer different programs for emerging artists. So what happens is that you kind of need to create a business proposal to them, um, and they will more or less choose whether or not to give you money to see the project through, to see the proposal through. So this
Hmm.
is the thing, right? Is Creative BC, like they do amazing work. Like there are some places and some initiatives that they really kept afloat during the pandemic that I don't think would have survived like without them. And that's why it's
So
like
they're like loaning
yeah.
money then, or gifting it to you?
Like well, it's like it's a grant. So they give you the
Okay,
money, but under specific conditions that you outline in your business proposal, right? So
gotcha.
it's not like, yeah, we're gonna like, do this, and they're like, oh yeah, here's $5, just never talk to us again. Like we had to write up an original report, and then when the pandemic changed, we had to basically email them and be like, okay, so this is what we're gonna be doing in response to the pandemic. So please let us keep our money. And they were like, yeah, okay, it's fine. And then at the end of it, we had to write like a final report, and then we got the remaining balance on the grant. And um,
That's really
we,
cool, man. I talked to a band from Denmark, and they do this in Denmark as well.
yeah,
Like it blows my mind. Here in America, we would never have anything like that. Like there's just no way that people would be
yeah,
up for
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so what do they expect from you?
So they basically expect you to like, I mean, well, think of it this way, like, because these proposals always end up with us being like, yeah, so this proposal would mean it's going to cost us 10 grand and we want you to foot 5 grand. So it's like Creative BC is like, okay, well, tell us why. Why should we give you that money? And then so you kind of explain it through to them. And the process basically begins with like, again, you have to have like very specific measurable goals, right? So for us, like it was, I remember prior to the pandemic when we got the grant originally, I was like, we're currently at 400 and whatever monthly listeners on Spotify. We want to increase that by at least 20% um, by the end of the project cycle. So the album release campaign, and then we want to have sustained growth that way. And so it's kind of like having very specific targets, very specific objectives that Creative BC has faith that you're going to be able to pull through on, right? And thank God they had faith in us. And yeah, that's why you just see us always blasting the "oh, thank you, Creative BC, we're so grateful," da, 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 da. And it's like it's true, right? We're not just plugging their name because we're plugging their name. It's like they really have had such a positive impact on us as a band, and a couple of the other local bands that have gotten grants to, like Neck of the Woods and
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
yeah. They've benefited from Creative BC, and you know the guys create Neck of the Woods.
I just know the band.
Oh yeah, killer band, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
So, what's like their goal then? I guess just to raise awareness of British Columbia, or
And create work for the yeah. It's raising awareness. It's like create, yeah, but mostly the way that I see it, and they may have a totally different vision in terms of their slogan and action plan or whatever. But the way I see it is they just want to create work, and they want people to be compensated for working in the music industry rather than what it is. And it's like a whole bunch of people just showing up in Value Village or bargain bin clothing to local venues and just like everyone's just like, okay, yeah, so we dropped 8 grand on gear and we're gonna make like $200 at the door. You know what
well,
I mean?
that's what I'm saying. Like they give you like so much money, but like how much are you really like generating out of that? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, totally, totally. And that's the thing is they basically they really want to promote bands to be successful, but the thing is they're not just going out on the street and just handing out checks to people, right? Like they want to and yeah, this is the thing in the States. Yeah, you guys have it all very black and white, whereas Canada, it's the fucking bureaucracy, man. You got to go through step one and then step two, three, four,
Oh,
five, and
dude,
it's
that
just
it
this,
totally
yeah,
exists here too. That exists here.
yeah, it's a big thing in Canada. So yeah,
Yeah, any way that like a government organization could not give you money, they're gonna do that and not give you
yeah,
money.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They'll find ways to basically skirt it, but
So
and
it's
the
an
thing is,
investment in the community. They're not looking for you to like bring a whole bunch of money in or whatever. It's just a quality of life kind of thing, I guess. Like
yeah,
trying to bring arts, more art to
yeah,
the area.
yeah, they want you to again, like the way is it is to think of it as, so the dudes that are so it's like our budget, or they ask you to come up with a budget, right? And in that budget is like producer, artists, like 8, 10 other people. And then it's like, this is how much they cost, this is how much they cost, this is how much they've quoted us, and then Creative BC says we'll cover that. Like we'll
Dude, that's
pay these
sick.
guys for that. And then they say, so long as you do this, right? And basically it's us that says what we want to do. So again, for us it was like we want to see a 25% increase in our single releases, like that we do every 6 weeks leading up to the month of the to the day of the release, right? So that's kind of like our goal. That's always what we're shooting for, um is to hit those benchmarks. So,
Right.
and like I said, prior to the pandemic, our goals and our goals looked very different compared to where they ended up with. And Creative BC, they were so good to us the whole way through. Really patient, really listened, and there was times, man, where I was biting my teeth, being like, "Shit, I don't want to have to give back that much money to you because we've already spent it on like the production of the album, right?"
Right.
And that's the other thing too, is they want you to provide invoices, proofs of payment, all that stuff, so they know that you're not going and blowing on a whole bunch of booze or something, right?
Right. Big ass
Yeah.
beer party or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So are you willing to say like how much they gave you?
Yeah, like so what happens is they you kind of more or less allocate, like you create like sort of a budget based off of like how much like the expenses are going to be. And so our preliminary budget, I think, was like 9.5, and they covered 50% of that. It's all public information. So
Jesus Christ.
they ended up giving us like 4.5 grand, I think.
Wow, dude, that's
Yeah.
insane.
Well, that's, and like I said, we could be, if without that funding, we'd be in a very different situation right now. We'd
Right.
still be playing, I mean, we might have like the purity of grief out, and we might be playing like, but let's just say we wouldn't have had the same level of, again, like time
Hmm.
and flexibility, and just again, just thinking about what kind of opportunities 4.5 grand out of the government will give you, right?
Right.
So that's why it's like with
Damn,
local bands,
dude.
whenever I talk to them, like we play with them, or if I'm at a show and they're all like, oh, like we really want to, and I'm like, I'm like, you might not get it because those guys see grants all the time. Like they see applications, like Creative BC, they see grant applications all the time, and a
Right.
lot of it's like, nope, not approved. Nope, not approved. And luckily, like, I spent a long time writing it, running it by a couple guys who I know who are familiar with the grant writing process. I put a lot of homework and a lot of time and effort into writing our application, and it went through, and as a result, like again, they were part of elevating the final product into making it something that made it superior in every way to anything
Dude,
we've ever
that's
done before.
amazing, man.
Yeah, it was.
Dude, this is
Yeah.
like reasons why America's stupid is because we don't get to do shit like that. Like, God, that'd be so cool. So
Yeah.
you have all this money pouring into it, but you didn't do any physicals for the album. Why didn't you put out CDs or vinyl or anything like that?
The physicals are gonna come. In Canada, yeah, like it's funny because we're not big enough right now to, because printing physicals, at least right now, costs like a decent chunk of money.
Mm.
We actually spent a lot of the money that we were planning on using for physicals and allocating it towards more digital marketing stuff, which has paid off. Our streams and our plays and our just completely blows everything we've ever done out of the water, based off of basically what we did, which was like taking online classes around online marketing, and digital advertising, like advertising through different media platforms. So basically, what it was prioritizing, right? So it was like, okay, so we're living in a pandemic. Everybody is at home right now. We have this much money. It's like we could make physicals, but then what happens is the money goes like this, right?
Mm.
And there's resource allocation, and we're not big enough for people to buy stuff online at like the same kind of pace that we could do as if we were just pumping it more into gaining an audience, gaining listenership from all over the world, right? And it has, like, the data suggests that we do a lot of data review with our band. So yeah,
Okay, but you said it's coming then.
it's, oh yeah, it's coming. It will be. It's gonna be like, because again, you go see a band live, right? You've never heard of them before, right? You go and you buy a beer, a band walks off stage, guy handed behind a merch table, you happen to have $10 kicking around in your pocket because whatever, you stop drinking, and it's like, you just buy a CD, right? Rather than PayPal through Bandcamp, put in your address, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's just little things with people that I feel get in the way when you're an underground band. Whereas if you just like deliver it straight into somebody's face, like they see the product right in front of them, that will incentivize them to go and buy something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of shows, though, you guys are starting to do shows again.
Yeah, man. BC has its own reopening plan, and it's looking like they kind of got a specific. They're looking at September for reopening, and it was cool because yeah, there's people that want us to play shows again, and they're reaching out and they're booking us, and man, it's a great feeling.
So
It's
when's
funny,
the
man.
next show
Yeah.
starting? When's the next show coming?
No, yeah, I would say probably, you can expect something. You'll expect to hear something from us about probably a September date, later in September, I
Okay.
imagine.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's good, and if things work out the way that I want them to, and we get the bands that we want on the bill, it's gonna be fucking sick. I think it's gonna be one of those things where people will be crying by the end of it because it's just gonna be like, holy shit, we're back to doing this again, right? Like we're back to, like, I mean, obviously, you guys have done things a lot differently in the States when it comes to your reopening plans and,
Oh yeah, yeah.
regulations
We're totally
and
stupid.
policies.
We're
Yeah,
retarded.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and you guys have just kinda done whatever you've done, and, but in BC, it's been very, like, really stringent in terms of, like, we've had a very, um again, we were basically like, no gatherings, no nothing for, like, 6 months, and then finally, as the vaccine rollout has ramped up, and now there's clear stages with clear numbers as to them being like, okay, so this is what we need to achieve in order to open up stuff again. And knock on wood, so far so good. Things are looking like they'll be okay for September, which would just be amazing. Like people are just dying to see live metal again. So I have a feeling that the first show that we play back, especially after having just released this album, I think it's gonna pop off.
Yeah, a little
So
belated album release show.
exactly, it's exactly what it's gonna be.
Yeah, we have a couple of shows like starting to come up around here now, and it's pretty sweet to be able to be like, oh, dude, I could totally go out and check this band out live again.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
It's always funny. Just it, yeah. Let's just say that the Texas experience compared to the British Columbia experience are two very different things. So yeah, yeah, it's funny.
it's very true, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's the best show that you've played?
The best show that we played. Um, well, I would say that like we, hmm, 'cause we've played some pretty sick shows. Our album release show for the Introspect was awesome because we sold the place out.
Oh
We
shit,
were
nice.
It was funny, and the thing is we made a lot of money that night because um, there was and we were opening that night. But the irony is that it was five bands all doing their CD release show on the same bill. So there
God
was five
damn.
bands dropping five CDs on the same day, and so man, it was packed, like so many people, and it was I think it was on September 17th actually, and and it was the place was full and it was hot as shit, and like people's hardware was fucking up because it was so hot and there were so many people in the room. And yeah, it was amazing. We also played we opened for Neck of the Woods, and that was a great show. Pound played that night too.
Oh, dude, Pound's
uh,
sick. I love those
yeah,
guys.
Pound's awesome. Yeah, we played it with Pound a couple times, um, and they were unreal. And yeah, that those are two probably just standout shows in my mind. Next to the we also played a sold out Kelowna show, and that was fucking amazing. Yeah, place went nuts, so it was
Dude,
good.
that's awesome, man. I didn't know
Yeah,
y'all were at that level where you're able to sell like places out and such. It's really sick.
yeah, yeah.
What was the worst show you played?
Well, yeah, yeah, it's so funny. Like, um, well, when it comes to like shows that you look at and you're like, why did we take that show? There was one show that we played for where we were kind of direct support for this local band that were kind of sort of just a group of guys that were very different from us in terms of like where they're at in their life and why they're doing what they're doing. Like we're
Mm.
like a pretty, I don't want to say we're a serious band because that's kind of a stupid word, but we're a band
I
that
mean, you
is
took a
like
huge loan from the government. Y'all are a serious band.
yeah, yeah. But it's like we're basically we're gunning for higher aspirations, right?
Right.
Like we're trying to get to something like a level that's higher above, and these guys are just kind of it's like a hobby for them, right? So
Hmm.
it's like we show up, we have all of our fucking Kemper lunchbox kits shit, and we have all this high end equipment. We play it, we walk off, and then it's just like a bunch of guys that they're like the headliners, and it was just one of those things where you're like we're just standing there after we made basically no money off the door because nobody showed up. Um, and it's like, why did we take this show? This was so dumb. Nobody showed up for this. The highlight of the night was that was the night when we just decided to randomly cover "Numbered Days" by Killswitch Engage, and
Oh, nice.
that was a fun cover to play live one time. Yeah,
Like, I think like we've all been at that point where there's like nobody showing up for the show and stuff like that. Like this
yeah,
is the thing you gotta live with. You know what I mean?
totally. Yeah.
What's the weirdest show you've played? For example, I've had people play like at an elementary school for fifth graders, play inside an ice cream parlor, things
Okay,
like that. Anything weird? Anything weird with y'all?
I got one for you. This is one that we laugh about all the time in the band. Um, so there was a period of time in 2016, 2017 when I don't know, like we just like weren't doing a good job of marketing ourselves, and people just weren't calling us to, for us to play shows or whatever. So we just didn't have any gigs despite wanting to play, and we were just fucking thirsting for shows because we just wanted to get out there and play in front of people. And this was before a time when we were actually really kind of thinking before we took gigs. And so uh, Chris, who's in our band, happened to know this guy who he went to school with at University of British Columbia. And the university, this guy that Chris knew was in a fraternity, and there was a fraternity house, so a frat house. And
Okay.
he was like, "Yeah, he listened to like your he listened to your stuff, and he thinks it's cool. You guys should come over and play for this party." So again, frat houses, man, in UBC, we're talking like, your white polo shirts, your khaki shorts, your fucking, and you're like, you know what I mean?
One of
Like
those
your
necklaces with the
short,
shells on them and
yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah, short haircuts, the whole nine yards. And then there's the girls that are there too that are just like whatever. So it's so funny because like we roll up and there's no like there's no sound guy or anything, right? It's just our, and we don't have cabs. So like what we're basically using is they I used a karaoke machine to do my vocals through. Harrison had to connect his Kemper into some kind of trash tiny like speaker that was like this big. Michael's drums were so loud. We were playing in this basement, and it was so funny just to see the whole basement of people just clear out, all of these frat heads and all of these fucking jabronis just running up the stairs to get away from us. And then, there was a few people that stayed downstairs that were just there to watch, but it was so loud. And like, I get why people wouldn't want to be down there, especially if they didn't have earplugs. But it was one of those things where, and then we
It's
like,
like I just want to listen to Nickelback, man, and like
yeah,
run
well,
out there.
exactly. They were like, I just, they're like, yo, where's like the Snoop Dogg, or like, where's the, where's the Carly Rae Jepsen and all that shit. Um, and then it was funny because afterwards we're like, okay, that was really weird. And then we're like loading up all of our gear and walking out of the frat house, and there's people that are just kind of like looking at us as we walk out. So fucking awkward. It was so
Dude,
weird.
that sucks,
And then
man.
we're all sitting in the car afterwards being like, okay, we got to really think about that kind of stuff before we take shows again. And we were like, yeah. So that was like a really, really bizarre experience we had playing a
The
show.
idea is good though, right? Like house show, that should be great. You got
I
frat
love,
boys, like shit could get really
yeah, yeah,
wild and weird. Like this sounds like a
yeah.
good idea.
I love house shows. I love the idea of house shows. I want to play, like, I think it was Norma Jean that didn't they announce like a tour that was basically all house shows like a
Did
few
they?
years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, "That's brilliant." I'm like, "That is so great." The idea of doing a house show in like every city that you tour in. But this was just so like, again, you sort of need to be like people from like, I could say this as somebody who's from the Greater Vancouver area, is like people from Vancouver are they're characters, and they're very like a like not snooty, but there's just a certain Vancouver attitude, and you take that and then you combine it with like a like that frat mentality, and you're just like, holy shit, yeah, it
Bunch of
was
spoiled rich kids. I got you.
exactly, it was just like a whole bunch of people that were just there, a lot of affluence, a lot of money, and also just a lot of like snobbery when we went and we played there. And I remember just being like, that was fucking weird. I wasn't even mad. I was just like, that was just bizarre, like from start to finish. So yeah, it was weird, man.
Echo Beauty Terror in chat says that's the beauty of playing heavy music. I guess people have different reactions to this kind of stuff.
Oh, totally, man. Yeah, that's like, again, um, and it goes both ways, right? Like my day job, I'm a teacher, like a school teacher.
Oh wow, what grade you
Yeah,
teach?
I teach like high school, grade 10 through 12.
Okay.
So that's what I do as my day job, and it's just funny because like I have these coworkers who are like, they listen to like their workout playlists on Spotify and whatever. It's not like heavy music, right? And then they're like, "Oh, I want to come see your band play live. I want to come see your band play live." And
No, you
I'm
don't.
like, do you like, are you sure? And then they're like, because I'm like, I'll tell you where and whatever. Like, you're more than welcome to come, but like, I don't know. And then so it's funny because they like listen to it. They're like, oh, it's kind of like a little too heavy for me. Da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, it's fun. They're like, but I'll come anyway to support you as a friend. and they
Aw.
show up, and again, teachers, right? Like we're talking like, you think about your teachers from high school and whatever. And then they go and they're like we finish our set, they were like, that was fucking awesome. And like that's the thing, man, is metal is meant to be enjoyed live. Like it's meant to be
Right.
seen live and like to make that connection with the performer live. So and then they walk away and they, again, it's a fun experience. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
So in terms of merch right now, you got two different shirt designs on your Bandcamp from what I can see. That's where you want people to purchase stuff, right? You don't have like a website or anything, right?
Yeah, the Bandcamp site, man. And then through
Okay.
the Bandcamp site, we just basically just either if they're living in the GVA, we ship like we just drive them out there, and if they're living like in places such as Dallas, we will yeah, we just mail them.
Alrighty. Well, what was the last thing you listened to?
Last thing I listened to, well, it was funny because I don't know, it's just like when a huge album comes out and it just completely flies under your radar and you don't listen to it, and
Yes.
you just for whatever reason there's no real reason, you just never listen to it. So
The Arms album was that for me recently.
oh yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
for me, Fit for an Autopsy, The Sea of Tragic Beasts.
Okay.
I had never listened to that record, and then it was like a week ago when I was working out or I was doing some bullshit like that, and all of a sudden the beginning of that album came on, and I was like, what the fuck is this? This is so good. This is so heavy. And because I remember people just like sharing it on their Spotify like over and over and over again, being like, 9 out of 10, this album is sick. Da, da, da. And I just had never listened to it. So Fit for an Autopsy I've been listening to a lot of recently.
What would be your album of the year, either for last year or up to this point this year?
Uh, I gotta say that last year, my favorite album definitely had to be Splinters of an Ever Changing Face
Okay, that's a
uh,
good one.
by End. Yeah, I gotta say that one was, when I think of like tunes that or albums that just really memorable like tracks, that one was really sick. I also liked I Let It In and It Took Everything
Okay,
by
Loathe.
Loathe. Yeah, I thought Loathe is crazy, man. It's unbelievable how they were on a very like kind of like Spirit Box, where their trajectory, they were just getting so huge so fast, and then the pandemic happened and it just shut everything down for them, right?
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that they rebound and they just get bigger and they keep playing more, because that album was just reminded me of like a fresher Deftones. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, so that was really sick. That was a good release for 2020 as well.
All right, man. This is about all I have to talk about. Unless you had something else you wanted to bring up.
No, well, I guess like I mean, I could pitch this out to whoever's watching or whoever's listening, and pitch it out to you. But so as somebody that's like I love, like, I love mathcore. Like I love mathcore music, but it's
Fuck yeah.
never something like, especially like if we're willing to kind of say like Miss Machine by Dillinger being like one of those mathcore records. Like Miss Machine was so huge for me. And then like Botch and that kind of stuff. But like if you could recommend, or someone else in the stream could recommend, like what is a really killer mathcore record that you've listened to recently that you feel is A, really good, and B, accessible?
So you mean like a new one?
Yeah, or anyone.
Okay. Well, there's like a million different kinds of mathcore. So
Right.
like there's super technical kinds. There's really grindy ones. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's all these
Yeah.
different styles. So like, in what kind of vein are you looking for?
I'm talking just about shit that, like, a good blend of like really heavy hitting tunes
Sleep
and
Sculptor. If you're looking for something
sleep
really heavy,
sculpture.
yeah, it's basically deathcore, but with a lot of like mathcore influence in it. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, they have an album that came out in 2019, and I forgot the name of it. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Entry dispersal, is that what it's
Hey,
called?
there you go. Yeah, they
Yeah.
are freaking amazing, man. Another good one, from a band that's like they're definitely gonna blow up in a minute. The Callous Cowboys. Have you heard them?
Oh, no, but I
You haven't
like
heard
that.
of them? Oh, dude, go check them out.
No.
Go check them out. The Callous Cowboys, they released an album called Die on Mars. It's absolutely amazing. It's more like Dillinger style.
Okay. The Callous Down. Okay, so they got an album called Die on Mars.
Hell
Okay,
yeah,
so
man.
it's funny because as you're telling me this, I'm just adding it to this list or Spotify playlist I have called Math. So that's
Oh,
good.
dude, you need to go to Mathcore Index. Do you know Mathcore Index?
It's no, what where is it? Where is it
So
in
that's a Facebook group. It's on
Oh,
that
okay.
covers Mathcore, and they're like constantly like talking about releases and stuff. It's like the
Great.
community hub
Yeah.
for this genre.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Anybody
oh
listening
yeah,
to this could
okay.
also go to Mathcore
And they
Index. It's
do
awesome.
have yeah, and they do have like a playlist. Okay. Shit, I'll have to make sure that this gets onto my list of tunes to listen to. Yeah, like okay, so is there give me another one cuz again, I'm just trying to basically up my ante in the math game so I can incorporate more of that shit into my writing. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha. Well, real quick, let's end the stream, and then we can go over a couple
Okay.
more. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for some solid progressive metalcore, you need to check out The Purity of Grief, the new album from No Light Escapes, which dropped back in May. You're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Bandcamp. You're also on all the streaming platforms. Am I missing any social plugs?
No, man. All you can find is if you go to our Instagram too. Like if you see that PCP link or whatever that's in the bio, it's connected to literally everything. It's a beautiful thing. So just click on that.
I love those things, man. You just need the one link. It's nice and clean. It's really great.
Revolutionary. Revolutionary. Yeah.
As for me, drop my channel, follow so you always know when I go live. You can also sub to get access to the interviews before they hit YouTube and streaming services, as well as exclusive emotes. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube folks, if you like the video, please drop a like, tickle the notification bell, don't forget to subscribe. It's a great way to support me for free. Check out my music, The Sound That Ends Creation, at thesoundthatindscreation.bandcamp.com. Just released a split with Focusrite, Intercontinental Split. Go ahead, check that out. My next guest is Philly-based metalcore band Keonashi. Join us this Wednesday the 30th at 7 p.m. for the live cast. Thanks for being here, Kurtis. Hope you had a good time.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you very much.
Hell yeah, and thank you guys for watching and listening.